Shadow Fisherman here, and we're going to make what I call a glass bead head San Juan worm. And we're going to tie it in a 16. Here's the hook here. Notice that magnetized needle, how handy that comes in handy. And we're working with a little bit larger hook, so we'll just place it on our capture device, and we're going to go dunking for bead heads. I've got a whole pile of red and black bead heads here, glass bead heads. These are very effective for catching trout down to size 20 or as small as you can get them on. Here's the bead head, you see it there. And place it in your vise securely, this old universal vise. And it sparkles. You put some sunlight on that and in the stream, and boom, you catch it. You'll catch any fish's attention. So you right behind the bead head, you want to put about, you're going to taper this fly, you want about 10 or 15 wraps, because you're going to secure it with the same system we used last time. You want to place your bead head in a position where you will get at your eye the easiest. Then you open your Loctite 404. I don't know if you can see that. Get yourself a micro drop with that. Place it right behind those 15 or 20 wraps, and so that your eye is an easy target to get to. And this helps the stability of the glass bead head. Then you just wrap to the back. You can zoom if you want. You don't have to taper it, just get to the back. And once there, we're going to use a piece of this ultra small wire UTC red. We already have a piece here pre-cut. We'll probably tie a half dozen or more. Place it on top or side. Side hides better. And you just wrap it on till it comes to the front. Now we always want to make flies that last, because I don't know about you, but I don't like watching anything fall apart. We use the same method as we did to adhere the bead head in a proper position. You can back wrap or forward wrap, make one wrap in the back of the thread, and then jump on top and come around one space in front of the other, making like a quill or insect body. You can use small or very small or even medium wire on this. Depends on how, but I prefer small. Then you just wrap it off with the Danville red. Notice saving your scissors. One razor blade's worth a $25 pair of scissors any day. I've had this about a year now, or two. Yeah. Even got a sharpener for it. Yeah, so now it's just tie it off. You don't want to tie too many wraps, because that's awful pretty. It's an awful pretty segmentation there. And it creates a lot of interest in the trout. Again, done. Not quite. This Loctite is quite water resistant, I find, over the years. Give a coat behind the bead head, and that little rascal comes to life. Just pops. So that's a Shadow Fisherman glass bead head. There you go. Glass bead head San Juan worm. Works better in an 18 and 20, but this as an upper works real well. I hope you enjoy the video. Is what the rascal looks like. I'll give it another coat. Hello, this is the Shadow Fisherman. Today we're going to tie a brown bed and breakfast, I call it. We'll start off with a size 20 standard wet fly hook, turn down eye, standard weight wire, and going to use some Danville Peacock. It's like a brown gold 6/0, and we're going to start the front here, tying this number 20. And I like making simple flies that are quickly tied and produce a lot of nice fish and fit a chronomoniad spectrum that one can appreciate. So first we put a first layer of this Danville Peacock brown, and then just a small snippets, and be very careful of this 404 Loctite. You'll see the reason for the Loctite in the next procedure, where we wrap at even intervals like you're using wire. And we let that dry a little bit. This dries within a minute or two. But while that's still tacky, we take some of this universal, I bought this as 15 cents back in the 60s or 70s, universal white floss, and you just wrap on a section to the front of the fly. Oop, it looked like it popped out. We'll just take it back. It's just about dry by now, so there's no problem there. There's universal advice with a universal floss. You just wrap that back on. Should have had it tighter. And then you just tie on a small section, lift the front. You can take your thumb and kind of depress it back if it's too close to the eye. And you want to have a nice looking eye. And you have your nice little head there, doesn't it? Can you see that? I'll zoom up close later. And this is one of the easiest flies that is very productive. Very, very productive in catching small and large trout. What I like to do is catch it, and then where you show a little tad of white in the back, just go back and wrap that. And it kind of imitates somewhat of a thorax. And you can tie off in front or in back of this fly. It really doesn't matter. If you feel a little crowded up front, you can just tie it off the back, 3 or 4 wraps. And by this time the former glue, and that's it. That's your bed and breakfast brown. And then you finish off just a tad of this here super glue. Make sure you don't get it on your eye. And that fly's finished. And that's a finished fly. It's quite small. I hope the camera can zoom in on it and you get an effect of the beauty of this fly and how effective it can be and how simple it is to make. Thank you very much. Well, right now we're going to tie a quill body tungsten bead head. I've magnetized some of my tools, and it's very efficient to have a bodkin that's magnetized to pick up your extra tiny hooks. I don't know if you can see that. I hope so. Then we got to transfer the captured hook to a little device like this for holding it. Make sure it's facing down. And then we're going to capture the bead head, which is in here, laying in a petri dish or a small plastic container. The bob has been knocked off this number 20 hook. And you see it easily wraps the tungsten bead head around it. Then here's the tickler spot getting from here to the vise. It's like tying two hairs together. There you go. Isn't that pretty? Well, we use a Danville thread again, a 6/0. This is a wax, but you can use the unwaxed. It doesn't really matter as long as it's 6/0, because you don't have a lot of space there. The 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Remember, this bead head has to be made secure, and you want your fly to taper. So you taper it towards the back. You also know that the shallow fisherman doesn't use the scissors very often. It's a lot cheaper to use a razor blade, and it cuts a lot closer to the fly than going out and buying $20 and $30 razor blades. So we got to this point. We need to set up a little base of adherence here, and you get a micro drop of this Loctite 404, and that will secure the bead head and give a base for adhesion for a quill. Now, using a peacock curl that has been stripped. I've already pre-stripped one. They look similar to a poultry quill of a grizzly, which is a bod rock, and you just follow ahead one step after another. All right, now we're going to wrap this delicate peacock quill up to the head. Nice taper on it. 1, 2, 3 wraps. Notice how the razor blade comes in a lot better handy in doing. You could probably make 3 flies out of this particular pheasant piece. Now it's time. You either lack it before or after you tie off. So I'm going to take the whip finisher, handy gadget. You can tie either. I got gloves on, so I burnt my hand a little bit, so I've got to wear gloves for a little while. 1, 2, 3. The smaller the fly, the less wraps you use, down to 3. That's about minimal. But what makes this fly so very fishable, and years ago you'd always have to put wire on here, is this super glue. It's just fantastic. And not only dressing the fly to a nice bright finish, but also it's almost impossible for the first 20 or 30 fish. For the fish, you give it 3 coats. Almost impossible for the trout to tear it apart, which was the problem years ago. So this little rascal right here is your tungsten bead head quill. It's an old-fashioned fly quill with a tungsten bead head. I hope you enjoyed Shadow's Fisherman. I hope you enjoy the